Hello, my name is Andrew, and welcome to my puzzle presentation on Takeshis Challenge, released in 1986 by Taito. Takeshis Challenge is an action-adventure game with beat-em-up and shoot-em-up elements. This game follows the story of a man losing his job and leaving his family to go look out for treasure. The puzzles we'll be looking at are the events the protagonist must complete in order to progress to the next part. When it comes to the negative aspects in the game, there happen to be a lot. Actually, this game is notorious for just having absolutely ridiculous combat, level design, controls, and requires a myriad of unorthodox methods to clear the game, ones that can't be derived from the gameplay itself. And although it'd be nice to focus on all these different aspects, the one we want to focus on is the puzzles, which is essentially going through the adventures, and the key aspect we'll be looking at is just how information is constantly missing for the player to ever make meaningful progress. So issues not working in the design. There is little opportunity to figure out the solution with the information provided. Fun fact, commercials were used to provide hints for parts of the game that couldn't be cleared with standard logic. And although various events in the game warrant discussion, one we'll be focusing on is the map event. Now, if you were to look at these two images, in the game at a certain point, an old man gives you a blank piece of paper and asks, what will you do? And at this point, this is really as much information as you get. And then you're given these 6 options. Now keep in mind, in this game, now up to this point, this game has been very punishing. Every time you mess up or do a decision that is incorrect, you're essentially forced to go to the beginning of the game and start all over again. So when you're given these 6 options, you really don't want to choose wrong. In fact, you're probably very paranoid of choosing wrong. But what if I told you there are actually 2 correct answers here? Now that itself isn't a problem, except for the fact that the soak in water option is let the controller sit for at least 5 minutes, but no more than 10 minutes, and then cry into the microphone, aka make noise into the microphone. Then we have expose the sun, where you must let the controller sit for 1 hour. If you were to move the controller at any point outside of these time frames, you would essentially fail and you would have to restart. And up to this point, there has been no contextual evidence to ever point you to let your controller sit there for an hour. So even if you were to look at something like real life logic and you were to Google something like how long does it take paper to dry, it'll range from anywhere from like 2 hours to 3 days. So even if you were to apply real life logic, you can't even derive a simple answer from what the game is doing. And to kind of quote Engelstein and Shalov from title Building Blocks of Tabletop Game Design, an Encyclopedia of Mechanisms, players know the range of possible results, and often the cadence by which information will be revealed, but they don't know the specifics, and the specifics can substantially impact strategy, which is just very funny in this situation because, well, without any information, the range of possible results is near infinite, and I can assure you developing a strategy from that point on is incredibly difficult. So when it comes to alternative solutions, some small amount of feedback or contextual clues can go a long way. Even if it's the smallest, most cryptic amount of information, to anything from a riddle written somewhere or a dialogue from random NPC, anything is better than nothing. And this might not apply to every puzzle, but I think we can agree that this one might warrant it. And as quoted in Rules of Play by Takeshis and Zimmerman, as a complex system, a game design must strike a balance between too little and too much uncertainty, flexibility, and information. And let me tell you that Takeshi's challenge has a little bit too much of too little information. So my closing thoughts are something kind of food for thought for everyone is, if you were to look at context matters, which we discussed in class, if a game's context was to be the most absolute and unorthodox experience ever, does this then rationalize including a part where the player must wait 1 hour to progress in the game? And if so, why just 1 hour? Thank you so much for listening. And these are my citations.